Well, hello, my teacher friends. Welcome to the Beyond Measure podcast with me, Christina Whitlock. I've appointed myself as your anytime piano teacher friend because I think we all need more time with colleagues who understand the quirky nuances of our work. Consider me up for the challenge. Special thanks today to my super friends who support me over on Patreon with small donations in exchange for some cool bonus material. If you are interested in doing your part to keep this show on the airwaves, head to christinawhitlock.com/superfriends for all the info. Thanks, super friends, for all the support you give me. And I'm not just talking about the dollars. All right, friends, I just have to say, this episode is releasing the day after the Easter holiday. And for those of you who live in countries who observe Easter Monday, I just want to say that I think you really have something figured out. Enjoy Easter Monday for those who get to observe it. All right, friends, you are listening to episode 253 of the Beyond Measure podcast. Okay, so we've got to talk about managing frustrations, friends. But first, a story. So I was in line at a fast food drive-thru the other day, and there was this car in line behind me. At one point, that car pulled out from behind me quite aggressively. He laid on the horn, and then he proceeded to go park in the parking lot. And I thought it was weird, but whatever. And then a few minutes later, I looked up out my window, and the driver, this man, was out of his car, and he was giving me the stare down. He was saying something, I still don't know what it was, and he kept punching his fists downward. Like he was really angry about something, and it really seemed like it was directed at me. He kept his eyes locked with mine until he had entered the establishment. He was all the while punching his fists downwards and saying something, who knows what. Now, barring the fact that this might have been some kind of mental episode on his part, it sure seemed like I had done something to gravely offend this man. I just don't know what it would have been. I'm not someone who offends people very often. I'm not usually in a position to get yelled at or fists shaken at very often at all. It's not my favorite thing, if you can't already tell, because surely if this man knew me, he wouldn't be thinking whatever terrible thoughts, would he? Like, surely he would know that I am not out to inconvenience or endanger him, right? This incident aside, I've been thinking a lot lately about how easy it's become to devalue other people until you get to know them. I think the internet has made us a more combative people. We tend to assume the worst until people prove themselves to the contrary, right? Like, you posted this, so clearly you are a monster and we have nothing in common, right? Well, way back in episode 34 of this show, I gave you some ground rules for engaging in online piano teacher groups. I think the contents of that episode continue to age pretty well, and I will link that in today's show notes. But one of my main points in that old episode was the way that online interactions make us more cynical. They just do. We begin to carry everyone else's experiences with us, and that becomes an overwhelming body of evidence for us to take offense at every questionable interaction in our own lives. Specifically to our work, We hear these stories about how other teachers have been mistreated. Disrespectful parents, disinterested students, families who perpetually show up late or pay late. These stories are abundantly available on the internet. So, of course, when we have our own experiences and we are reading about other people's similar experiences, all of a sudden we feel like disrespectful studio families are everywhere. You have a student who arrives late for their lesson 2 weeks in a row, and all of a sudden they are one of those students. We are so quick to write off families as terrible people who don't value us as teachers. We assume they're terrible parents or lazy parents. They're all out to take advantage of us, right? Hardly, my friends. I often joke with my consultation clients that when you read a teacher's studio policies, you'll probably see a list of all the ways they've been burned in the past. Like, most teachers won't think to include a policy for returned checks until they've had a family bounce a check, right? Speaking from experience on that one. For the record, we don't actually want our studio policies to read like a list of things that have ticked us off in the past. There is a better way to handle them, but that's another topic for another day. For now, I just want to offer a reminder that everyone we encounter has value. I've said it a million times here, but when you treat people like your favorites, they often become just that. When you treat your students like they are hardworking and innately musical and full of every potential, they often become just that. One of my favorite ideas that floats around the internet is this quote that says, "My teacher thought I was smarter than I was, and so I was." I know I've mentioned that here before. I just really like it, guys. Now, have I been burned on occasion? Of course, it's going to happen. We deal with people, and people are just inherently messy. And yet, I remain convinced that one of the primary reasons I have people trying everything they can do to get onto my studio roster is because of the way I treat my families and the way I make everyone feel. The way you think and the way you speak about people you encounter in life has much more influence than you realize. Now, I'm absolutely preaching to the choir on this one because those of you who listen regularly to this show are already great at this. I guess I just wanted to offer a reminder today that everyone we encounter has value. No one in our studio or sitting in the fast food drive-thru is irredeemably ridiculous. The way we talk about one another and the way we treat each other matters. We shouldn't have to prove ourselves to one another before we earn respect and dignity as humans. New studio parents are simply learning how to be studio parents. They're not stupid. They have value. Teachers in online Facebook groups are asking questions. They're not stupid. They have value. And drivers you encounter on the road have value. They aren't just stupid. Always back to the driving today, right? Seriously, though, I think online interactions have a lot in common with how we interact with people on the road. First of all, let's just call it like it is. We all make mistakes when driving. Just like we all make mistakes in teaching and in running our studios. It happens. And yet, When somebody makes an abrupt turn without signaling, or when they miss the fact that they're driving in a turn lane and then they want to come back over into your lane, aren't we all so quick to be like, ugh, what a dummy? I know those are the words you use. And yet, if I'm driving with my husband somewhere and one of us makes an oversight, we're not immediately like, what are you doing, you idiot? Of course not. We value each other. We know that we are both intelligent people who are also capable of missing a turn sometimes. So we'll be like, whoa, buddy, interesting move. Or, you okay over there? Something like that, right? I mean, that's how you treat someone you value, right? Not like they're out to get you or like they must be missing brain cells, but like a human being who also has occasional lapses in judgment. I think as piano teachers, more of us need to adopt this, whoa, buddy, interesting move kind of energy. Or, you okay over there? Energy. Instead of being so quick to take offense, instead of carrying with us all of the horror stories that we've collected over our lifetimes, and instead of operating as though studio families are instantly out to manipulate us until they prove otherwise, let's release all of that junk, shall we? Teacher life has enough struggles without piling more negativity on top of it all, right? People aren't worthless until proven otherwise. It's quite the opposite. Once a studio family burns you, and I mean really burns you, then you can feel all the feelings. But let's be cautious not to project negativity onto people who aren't actually trying to mistreat us, okay? Okay, we've all got good work to go do, so let's wrap up with a toast and get on with life, shall we? Find a glass and raise it with me now. Studio teacher friends from all around the world, it's possible I'm describing a very American mindset these days, but based on my interactions online, I doubt it. There are forces in the world that want to keep us negative, to keep us stewing in bitterness and fear. Those feelings only leave us feeling defensive, undervalued, and afraid. But we are music teachers. We are the magic makers in this world, and it is our job to rise above that and remind every human being that crosses our path that they are valued. They are full of possibility, and we have their backs. May we enter this week reignited to treat each human being we encounter in life, online, and in our cars, with dignity. Hear, hear. All right, friends, that's it for today. I want to give a special shout out to the 50 teachers who took a chance on me and joined me for Building Better Music Readers over the last 12 weeks. If you weren't around in January when I launched that trial program, Building Better Music Readers is a 12-week video series that walks teachers through micro steps in the reading process that we tend to overlook as teachers. I ran this trial run with the most amazing group of teachers, and the feedback has been better than I could have ever dreamed. So I'm making a few tweaks to the material this week and hope to have it ready for mainstream purchase next week. So stay tuned for that. If you ever find yourself wondering why so-and-so just isn't getting it, Building Better Music Readers is exactly what you need. I can't wait to share it with you, and I'm so grateful for those who jumped in with me back in January, sight unseen. Okay, friends, that's all I have for you today. So onward and upward we go.